Well, all right. We are right at 12. So in the interest of time, I know some of you might be joining us for lunch. We'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Aaliyah Garrett. I'm the Sustainability Outreach Coordinator here in Sarasota County at the Extension Office. I am so happy that you're joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about Sarasota County and how you can live more sustainably on our Suncoast. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I love starting out with this photo. It's one of my favorite photos ever. It's called Earthrise. And this was the first photo taken of Earth from space. And it really helped galvanize the environmental movement back in the 1970s. And it just really shows that is our home. Everyone we've ever known, everyone we've ever loved, the only viable place to live right now is that pale blue dot. So it really just kind of gave people perspective of how fragile and important it is to protect our environment. All right. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Sarasota or with our extension office, I'll give you a quick introduction into those things. We'll talk about briefly about the history of Sarasota, what sustainability is, and then we'll spend a lot of the time talking about our Green Living Toolkit, which is just a fantastic resource to get you living more sustainably over here. And that touches on energy, water, waste, and food and transportation. And then just want to do some housekeeping. If you can keep yourself muted, that's of course, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or just put them in the chat box and I'll get to them when I can. We'll definitely have time for questions at the end. I'm happy to stay on as long as anybody wants for questions. I am recording this, so y'all will receive a recording link once I have it available on our YouTube page. We also do have a survey, so if y'all can take that, that would be really helpful. It just lets us know what you want to hear about more or how we can improve. And I will also send out the slides too. So feel free to take notes, but you will receive all of this information in an email from me after the presentation. And with that, we'll go ahead. So what's Extension? For those of you who aren't familiar, we're essentially the education arm of the University of Florida. So we're a partnership between the county, the University of Florida, and the USDA. And there's one in every single county in Florida, so there's 67 in total. And what we do is use the university's research and resources to address local community needs. So for example, in our sustainability program, we have a big focus on energy efficiency because in our community, we have a big energy burden. So some of the programs at different extension offices might look a little bit different, but they all have great services. And here in Sarasota, we have programs in 6 core areas. So it's agriculture, community development, gardening and landscaping, natural resources, nutrition and healthy living. And you've all probably heard of our youth program 4-H. So there's tons and tons of ways to plug in with our office and also others. We are doing an office-wide series for newcomers and also longtime residents who want to know more about the community. So in addition to this class, we'll have a whole series. I believe it's twice a month on Wednesdays at 12, so you can learn more about different topics that are relevant to our area and living more sustainably. So for our sustainability program within Extension, we do a lot of education and outreach to community members and also employees so they can be green at work. We just want to make sure we're reaching everybody to achieve our sustainability goals. And a very cool fun fact, our program was launched in 2002. That's when our sustainability office was established. And we were the first in Florida to have a sustainability office for the county and the 7th in the nation. So we have a really long-standing commitment to sustainability and making our community more resilient and sustainable. So how did Sarasota come to be? So it depends on what you're asking about. You know, there's been a version of Sarasota around for quite some time. And the name Sarasota, there's a legend that has it that the name Sarasota originated from the daughter of Hernando de Soto when he arrived in Florida in the 1500s. And it doesn't seem far-fetched because it's on maps from that time, but then if you dig into it, there's a problem because he didn't have a daughter named Sarah. It was just a common name at the time. So in the 1760s, it kind of started to appear more on Spanish and British maps. And then by the time it was acquired by the US in 1821, the name had stuck. So everybody just started calling it Sarasota. But it didn't incorporate until 1902. And the county kind of started in the 1920s with Sarasota, Venice, Inglewood, all of our different cities. But we wanted to divide the county from Bradenton because residents felt like down here we weren't getting as much representation as some of the areas up in Bradenton. So Florida legislator passed a bill in May of 1921 separating Sarasota from Manatee County. So June 15th, 1921 is when we became official. So just some more information about Sarasota County. We are in the middle of Florida's western coast, approximately 60 miles south of Tampa Bay. So this includes a couple cities of the city of Sarasota, the city of Venice, city of Northport, and the town of Longboat Key. We have a very tropical climate with, as you probably all know, hot, humid summers and warmer, still kind of hot sometimes. It's actually pretty cool today and has been, which is nice. But typically drier winters. Our population is around 434,000 about. And our area encompasses 575 square miles of land and is surrounded by 37 miles of open shoreline along the Gulf of Mexico. So now that we know a little bit more about kind of the history of Sarasota, how it came to be, and also our sustainability program, I just want to touch on what sustainability is. So sustainability really is more holistic than just focusing on that environmental pillar. Oftentimes people think of sustainability just as, that environmental, taking care of natural resources and wildlife and those sorts of things, which are very important. But sustainability is more holistic than that. It really encompasses social well-being, and also economic well-being with a green economy. So we like to refer to it as people, planet, prosperity, or profit. So where those three connect is truly being sustainable. We can't have a sustainable community without all three of those things being in balance. So the Green Living Toolkit is a really great resource for helping us achieve those three pillars. It's the first of its kind community-wide calendar of environmental events and different things that are going on throughout the Suncoast. And it includes events from over 100 Suncoast organizations. So we'll look at the calendar a little bit more. I'll open it up to and I have some screenshots, but it basically pulls and consolidates all the events from these 100 organizations. And it's a one-stop shop for all of these sustainability classes, tours, nature walks, festivals, volunteer opportunities. So it really is a great way to get more connected in our community and all along the Suncoast. And I have the link here, but I have some screenshots on the next slide, so we'll get into it a little bit more. And of course, anybody who wants to stay on for a little bit, happy to walk through the website a little more with you too. So when you go to this website, this is what it will look like. It's beautifully done and pretty user-friendly. So this is the main page. And like I mentioned, that community-wide calendar, if you click on, if you see on the top right, there's a button for events, that will take you to the calendar. But there's also different tabs at the top for different topics of energy, food, waste, water, and nature. So if you want to narrow it down and learn more about either of those topics, you can click on those tabs and I'll show you on the next slides so you can get more information about each of those. So this is what the energy one looks like, and it's then further divided up by different subcategories. So it'll give you an overview of energy and then information on how to do your own home energy assessment or give your home an energy tune-up or information to potentially go solar. And of course, this also includes specific examples of ways that you can implement these at your own home. So for example, with the home energy assessment, it has some information about how at Extension, we have library backpacks that are available at each library in Sarasota County, and it has everything you need to do a little mini energy audit at your home so you can learn more about your particular use and how you can save money on your energy bills, because energy bills are only getting more expensive and they're just going to keep rising, and it's only getting hotter. So we're going to have to use our air conditioning more. So it's really important that we learn more about energy use and see how we can save not only energy and resources, but also money. Then you'll go to the food tab if you're interested in that. And of course, all of them will give you an overview on that top tab, but then it'll give you some more information on how to grow a food garden, how to eat local, and how to reduce waste, and then composting. And just like with the energy tab, each of these different subsections will have direct resources to point you to. It's not just conceptual, like, oh, you should be doing this. It gives you tangible action steps for people you can reach out to, for programs you can sign up for things you can actually get involved with. And that's what I love so much about this website, is that it's very action oriented. It's not just educational. It gives you the opportunity to participate in these solutions right away. So it's a very exciting tool. Then you go on to waste. So if you want to learn more about reducing single-use plastics or reusing, repurposing, and restoring items, and recycling right. For those of you who are new to our community, you know, if you live up north or even in a different area in Florida, there's different recycling ways in each of these communities. So it's important to know what you can and can't recycle here in Sarasota County. And again, we do have resources available for that on the toolkit. And at Extension, we have a waste reduction specialist. His name is Randy, and he teaches a recycling class as well as composting. So he's a great resource as well. Water is so important, and we only have so much of it. So we do want to save water indoors as much as we possibly can. We want to cut water and curb pollution and be a catalyst for clean water. And just so everybody knows, I just want to throw this out there. We're just going to do our best. Not everybody is going to be able to do every single tip that is recommended on this, but we're just going to do our best. That's all we can do. And, you know, every action really does add up. So even if you take just a few of these things and implement them, it really will make a difference. Nature. Everybody loves nature. So we want to get out and explore. And there's a lot of information on here about different parks and nature walks that you can be involved in, and volunteer opportunities to do cleanups or tree plantings or whatever it is that's upcoming in our community. You can learn about how to keep wildlife safe. You know, as we're developing, we're kind of encroaching on creatures' land, and that's with everywhere, anytime. So we're starting to see more wildlife in our backyards and in public areas. So it's important to know, how do we keep them safe? How do we keep ourselves safe in those situations? But we also do want to support backyard wildlife. They're all so important. Everything on Earth has a purpose for being here. So we want to support our wildlife the best we can. One way you can do that is even just having a few pollinator pots on your backyard. Yeah, I don't even have a backyard because I live in an apartment, but I have a little pot by my front door, and just try to do what we can. So now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into some of the solutions that are mentioned in each of those categories. So we'll start with energy. And as I mentioned, we have a really, really big focus on energy in our sustainability program. We do have energy classes. Aside from this one, it's called Energy Upgrade. They're on our Eventbrite where you registered for this, also free. We teach them in person, online, on nights and weekends. We try to be as accessible as possible. So if you want to know more about energy, please do. Don't hesitate to reach out to me after this. And as I mentioned, energy is only getting more expensive, and we're using a lot of it in our homes. So about 36% of your energy bill is from your air conditioning. And if we lived up north, this would look a little bit different because, you know, they're not using cooling as much. Maybe heating would be a bigger part of this. But in our area in Southwest Florida, it's typically air conditioning is the #1 culprit. And then we have water heating, which a lot of people are surprised about, but it takes a lot of energy to heat up water, like a lot. Heating at 13, and then others go down from there. So I like to show people this because once we know where we're using our energy, we can focus our efforts on those bigger culprits, so we can save some more. So for no cost energy savings, these are things that you've probably heard before, but it's a good reminder because even me, it's easy to forget when I'm busy or just running out of the house, but just be more conscious of it going forward. So we want to turn off lights, fans, and electronics when leaving the room. We don't want vampire loads. So I don't know if you've heard of a vampire load or a standby mode is what they call them. But a lot of devices and electronics are consuming power even though they seem off to you. So your TV, you know how sometimes they have, like mine is off, but it has a little red light in the corner to show that it's off, or your microwave has the time on it. Your stove typically has the time on it. Anything that has a light or is warm to the touch is sucking energy. So I keep the coffee pot unplugged. I keep everything that's reasonable. I'm not going to like pull my stove out and unplug it and plug it in every time I use it. But, you know, like I said, we're going to do what we can. We're going to do our best. But if you do take our energy upgrade class, we give out a free energy kit after, and it comes with a smart power strip in there to help prevent that vampire load with your devices and electronics. And they're free. So do sign up for an energy upgrade class. We would love to get one of those for you. And as I mentioned, your air conditioning is the biggest user of energy in your home. So what you can do is try to stick as close to these numbers as possible. Of course, it's going to depend on your comfort level and who's in your home and what feels safe and good for you. But for our region in the winter, if you keep your air around 68 when you're home and turn it to 65 when you're away, or during the summer, if you keep it at 78 when you're home and 82 when you're away, those you'll see the biggest energy savings if you keep them close to these numbers. But again, you know, when I had roommates, it was always a big thing because I'm anemic and I like it warmer and they like it colder. So just do what works for you and your household. But again, the closer you get to these, you'll start seeing some money, some savings. You also want to turn down your water heater thermostat to 120 degrees. And I wish I took a picture of it and had it in here. I have it in my energy upgrade presentation. But when I first moved to Sarasota, I've been in Florida for 20-something years, but when I first moved to Sarasota a couple years ago, I just graduated college and I was so poor and I moved into this really tiny apartment. It was wonderful. It was the best time of my life. But when I moved in there, the water was really, really hot. So I called the leasing office, the maintenance people, and I said, hey, you know, it's really, really hot. Can you come and fix whatever's wrong? And they said, oh, they're all preset to 120. Your skin is just sensitive. And I think I mentioned I'm anemic, so I'm cold all the time. I will boil myself alive in the shower. I love hot water, but it was like uncomfortably hot. So when I was making my FPL account, they have a great tool on there called the Energy Dashboard and the Energy Analyzer. And the Energy Analyzer gives you personalized tips on how you can save energy. And the #1 tip that they recommended was turn your water heater thermostat down from 140 to 120 degrees. So then I printed that out and took it to the leasing office and they said, oh, it is too high. And they came and they turned it down right away. But my point with telling you this is my bill went down drastically because it takes so much energy to heat up water. So if you're heating it up to the point that it doesn't need to be, you're just wasting money. So I saved money. I started using less energy. And then also I was more comfortable in my own home, just being able to shower, wash dishes, and not have to have it halfway on cold. So just make sure that your water heater thermostat is about 120. You do not want it lower than 120 and you do not want it higher than that. If it's lower, then it's not hot enough to kill off bacteria or anything that could develop in your water heater. If it's hotter than that, it's going to cost you a lot of money and it's going to be uncomfortably hot. So again, these are no cost energy savings. These are things you can do completely free. They don't cost you anything. It's really just behavior change. And we have a whole class that goes over these and some of the tips I'll go over on the next slide. I know we only have about 30 minutes, so I'm trying to get through this quick, but I am a storyteller, so I'm sorry. Okay. Some more no cost. Wash your clothes in cold water if you can. I honestly have been doing that for years and it works out fine for me. If you can, choose the air dry setting for your dishwasher. Typically dishwashers, they have like an automatic heat setting. But again, it takes a lot of energy to heat stuff up. So if you can just let them air dry, it's kind of like it's just on a dish rack. Just open it, pull the racks out and just let them sit and air dry. You want to close your windows and window drapes during sunny summer days. So the sun rises in the east and sets in the west every day forever. So if you have windows on the east and west sides of your house, that sunlight's going to come in and warm up your home. Really any windows though. So if you can, if you're not home, I love daylights. When I'm home, I do keep some of them open, but if I'm gone for the day, I'll shut my blinds and shut my drapes. So that way my air conditioning is working less hard because that sunlight isn't coming in and warming up my home. You want to check your refrigerator gasket seal. So around the frame of your fridge is like this rubber piece around the door. It's called your gasket seal. And over time, those wear down. So it's not sealing your fridge as airtight as it should be. So cold air is escaping out. So it's working really hard to keep it cold because there's air leakage. So what you can do is take a dollar bill. You're going to open your fridge, stick the dollar bill in, shut the fridge, and you're going to pull on it. And if it just slides right out and there's no resistance, then you probably need to replace your gasket seal. But if it gives you a little resistance, of course, you're stronger than the dollar bill. So it is going to come out. But what you're looking for is just a little bit of resistance. Gasket seals aren't too expensive or hard to install yourself. You can get them at pretty much any major home improvement store. So please check that out as well. And for fans, fans cool people, not rooms. They make your room feel about 2 degrees cooler, but it's not actually making your room any cooler. So if you're not there, please turn your fan off. It's really not doing anything except using up energy and costing you money. And I thought this was pretty cool. On ceiling fans, there's a little switch on the side. So it basically tells it which way to rotate. So in the summer, you want to have it set so that it spins counterclockwise. And in the winter, you want it to spin clockwise. And for it's winter right now, it's colder. So in the winter, when it's spinning clockwise, it's pulling the warm air down because heat rises. So it's pulling that warm air down and actually helps warm you up. Whereas in the summer, it pulls the warm air up, so it makes you feel cooler. So I thought that was really cool. So to make sure that your fan is running as efficiently as possible, it's a tiny little switch on the side of it. I was very skeptical that it existed, and I've looked at every fan since then, and they all have it. So check yours out, make sure it's working right. For some low cost, these are things that will cost you a little bit of money, but not too much and not too hard to do. So you can install a programmable thermostat. These are a great option for folks who aren't necessarily home all day, really for anybody. But for example, when I go to work, I program it to be either higher or lower depending on the time of year. And then that way my air conditioning isn't running all day while I'm gone. But when I come home, it kicks on an hour or so before I get home. So that way it's the temperature I want it to be at when I get there. So those are great. Insulating drapes, like we mentioned, keep that sunlight out during the summer, open them during the winter if you want to warm your home up. You can wrap your hot water heater. You want to clean or change your air filters as much as they should be. So air filters, it depends on the type you have, but some are 30 days, some are 60 days, some are reusable. So just know what kind you have and keep on top of that. Not only is it good for efficiency, but it's good for your indoor air quality. You don't want to be breathing that stuff in. And if you do have a ton of people or more pets, just keep up on it a little bit more frequently, maybe. You want to use LED light bulbs. They are the most efficient models on the market. They're going to save you a lot of energy. They last about 25 times as long as traditional incandescent. So they are worth it if you do need to get some new light bulbs. Alrighty, water. So where is it being used? Again, it's important to know where we're using most of our water so we can focus our efforts there. If you have an outdoor space, if you live in a home, about 58% of it goes to irrigation, and then about 40% goes indoors. So your toilet is going to be your number one use of water indoors, and then your washer, your shower, your faucet, and leaks, which are a lot bigger of a deal than people think. So what can you do? You can be mindful about your outdoor irrigation and turn on your sprinklers in the morning before it gets too hot and the water just evaporates and doesn't water your plants. You can have Florida-friendly landscaping. So if you have an outdoor space, you can make sure to have either Florida-friendly or native plants because they're used to living here. They don't really need as much fertilizer or water because they're used to our area and our climate. So we want the right plants in the right places, and we want to attract wildlife as well. We do have rain barrel classes, and we also have Florida-friendly landscaping classes as well. So again, very action-oriented. We have irrigation evaluations that our water resources program assistant does. And we have a whole department in our office dedicated to Florida-friendly landscaping and gardens. So they are very wonderful and have great classes as well. Fixing leaks is so important. There's so many times I go to people's homes and there's just one little drop where I can hear the toilet running and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really does add up. So a leaky toilet is really a big deal. If you have an older toilet, it can use 3 to 8 gallons of water per flush. If you have a newer toilet, it's about 1.6 gallons or less if it has that water sense label on there. But either way, if you have an older toilet and it has a leak, it can waste up to 200 gallons of water every day. It's actually crazy how much it is. So one thing you can do is the food dye test, or you can get toilet leak detection tablets. They're not expensive and you can get them at any major home improvement store. But if you have food dye with you on hand, with your toilet, you're gonna take the tank, the lid off the back of it, the rectangle part that's on the back of your toilet, you're gonna take the lid off of that, and you're gonna drop a few drops of food coloring in there. Put the lid back on, don't touch your toilet, don't use the bathroom, just let it sit for like 15 minutes. And then come back, open the lid of the bowl where you use the bathroom. And if there's any color in the bowl, you know that the water has leaked from the tank to the bowl and that you do have a leak. And a lot of the times you can like hear it making a noise or hear it running. But often or sometimes you don't. Even in one of my apartments, I didn't hear a noise, but I saw my water bill go up and I checked and I had a leak. So oftentimes it is, the flapper, which isn't too hard to replace or fix yourself or super expensive. And if you do have an older toilet, you can get a displacement bag. So that will displace the amount of water that's in your toilet so that it doesn't use as many gallons per flush. And if you want to replace your toilet entirely, there are dual flush toilets that do a half flush and a full flush, and those are great options for saving water as well. We can take shorter showers as part of our energy upgrade class. We give out free low flow shower heads. So again, please do sign up for that. They come in our energy kit and also using WaterSense products. If you need to buy a sink or anything water related, always make sure to see if it has that label. At this point, I have a slide for questions, but I realize we're almost at 12:30 and I still have like 10 more slides. So I'm going to power through, but if anybody has any questions, I'll take them at the end. But we'll get through these really quickly. So waste and food. So did you know that food waste doesn't degrade in landfills? It doesn't. A lot of people think it does. And the average family can divert about 19 pounds of food waste from landfills every month by composting. We do have a waste reduction specialist, and you can take his composting class. I will say when I first started at Extension, I took a bunch of different classes that people offer just to see what they do. And I took a composting course with Randy, and the next day, I ended up going to get a worm composting bin, and I've been worm composting for like 4 years now, and I love them. So take the class at your own risk because it's really great. You might end up composting. Plan before you grocery shop. I need to be better about this, and I've finally stopped going to the grocery store when I'm hungry because then I buy way more than I need. So I want to make sure to plan ahead so we're not buying more than we need and wasting it. Shop seasonal fruits and veggies, local, if you can. There's a lot of great farms around here. We have a big agricultural community that a lot of people don't know about. And you can try to grow your own food if you can. So what can we do for waste? We can repurpose our items. We can donate items or buy secondhand. This is one of my favorite things. Buy in bulk, regrow vegetables with food scraps or maybe compost them. If you have any paint or hazardous chemicals, there's a chemical collection center at the end of Bee Ridge that you can drop those off at. and potentially use some reusable products instead of disposable ones. So I try to keep an extra water bottle and straw and utensil set just in my car. So if I'm out to eat somewhere and need to go grab food or need water, I just have that non-single use option. So here in Sarasota, these are the items you can and can't recycle. So cans, paper, cartons, plastic, glass, all a yes, but we want to make sure to rinse them. We're going to leave out batteries, styrofoam, plastic wrap, any thin plastic we don't want in there because it's going to get tangled up in the machines. Same thing with wires and hoses, clothes hangers, anything with food or liquid, yard waste, and small appliances. Transportation. So there are different forms of transportation, different sorts of cars. So the conventional vehicle is just gas. Hybrid is gas plus some battery storage. Plug-in hybrid is where you actually plug it in, like an all-electric car, but it also does have a gas option. And then fully electric is going to be a 100% plug-in electric vehicle. We do have an electric vehicle class as well. I think we have one on our Eventbrite signed up. I believe it's in March, but don't hold me to that. So please do register for that too if you want to know more. There's a lot of benefits for electric vehicles with reducing emissions, air quality, just so many. So I know we only have like one more minute, so I'll keep going. But what can we do? We can utilize public transit. Breeze is amazing. They have a lot of great options and are really trying to be the transportation of the future. So utilize our transit system if you can. Carpool, if you like, you can walk or ride your bike. We have the Legacy Trail. It's amazing. It connects pretty much everywhere in the county. Properly maintaining your car is really important to maximize those fuel savings. So keeping your tire pressure up and doing your oil changes and all of those things. And potentially consider a hybrid or an electric vehicle. There are some federal tax credits. And you can get up to, I believe, $7,000 for a new electric vehicle and $4,500 for a used electric vehicle. Of course, I am not a tax expert, so please do consult your tax person for those final decisions. And there are like qualifying cars, and there's a bunch of information about what qualifies and what doesn't. So please learn more about that if you want to. Closing out, so if you haven't heard of what a carbon footprint is, essentially it measures the total amount of greenhouse gases that are generated by you and your actions. So the average carbon footprint for somebody in the US is about 16 tons, which is one of the highest rates in the world. Globally, the average is closer to like 4 tons. So it's really interesting to learn about your impact, and it just gives you a insight into what you can do to be more sustainable in what areas of your life. So the link is right there. You'll click it. It'll ask you a bunch of questions about your lifestyle, like how often you travel, do you eat locally, that sort of stuff. So please do take it, and it's very insightful. If you want to get involved, we love being out in the community. So if you have any clubs or groups that you would like us to come speak to, we do speaker requests. We're always happy to do that. As I mentioned, we have library kits available. We have our energy and water efficiency backpack for you to do a mini audit, but we also have a family green living kit. We have an insect investigator backpack and an explore your world backpack as well. We have a blog page where you can learn more about everything that we do, and we try to post monthly blogs. In the beginning of the presentation, we kind of talked about the history of Sarasota. There is a history center that we have, and they are just fabulous. They know so much more about the history of Sarasota, and they do a lot of education as well. So if you want to know more, please contact them. And there is a local historic marker program and a GIS layer, so you can click on that there too. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. I hope you did learn something new about our area and what you can do to be involved locally. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and give you all just another minute or so for questions. And you'll get an email from me with all this information, the slides, and I'll send out the recording when I can. But again, thank you for taking the time to join me. I hope you learned something new and that you'll check out the toolkit.